Yes, you do.
Yeah, we'll have to sort that one out. I'm going to be getting a lot of confused calls from the public, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Okay.
I know, like it wasn't confusing enough that we just had planner 1 and planner 2. Now we have 2 Kirstens.
I thought we could go with initials, but her initials are KD.
Yeah, okay, Katie Lang, yep, okay. Corporate Officer, we're streaming, are we live?
You're ready to go.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. We apologize for the brief delay. We had some trouble signing in. Welcome everybody to the Committee of the Whole for September 7, 2021 for the town of Gibsons. And we acknowledge that we are meeting today on the traditional territory of the Squamish Nation. We have a fairly full agenda today, and so we are going to get right into it. I'll call the meeting to order at time being, I believe, I have 3:07, and ask for approval of the agenda. Now, Councillor Ladwig, Councillor D'Andrade, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. I should just say as we start that Councillor Kroll is busy on one of our 20-odd UBCM calls that we are involved in this week, and he will be joining us when that call is finished. We have several reports. I'd like a motion from council to receive all reports. Yeah. Councillor Lumley, Councillor Ladwig, all in favor? Thank you very much. First report on our agenda is Kirsten Rockins, Planner 1. This is a rezoning and form and character development permit for cluster residential development at 834 Park Road. Kirsten, over to you.
First, I'll unmute. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the first application, I'll just confirm you're seeing my slides since we're just starting up.
Yes, we have it.
Yeah, the first development application for the committee's consideration today is for a 28-unit cluster residential development at 834 Park Road. The subject property is located on Park Road, just south of Reed Road and north of the Recreation Center. It's a large 1.7 acre property that currently has one single family home. A similarly sized property just to the south on Park Road, for context, is currently also under development with 28 units and using the same requested cluster residential zoning. So the application requires a change of zoning for the property from single family residential R3 to a cluster residential zone that's in line with the land use envisioned in the OCP, and also a development permit application for the form and character of the proposal, which is under intensive residential development permit area number 8. And we're looking for a recommendation today on both the next steps of the zoning amendment and the form and character development permit. And I am fearing that, have you seen any references to ADP? Yes, I believe I've opened my presentation from the last meeting. Do you mind if I take a moment to switch to the presentation for committee? I'm very sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Thank you.
Councillor D'Andrade, you and Councillor Kroll had a meeting with BC Hydro today, and Councillor Kroll and I had one with the RCMP earlier today as well. And Mark sat in on that, along with Nicholas Simons was in the background. Yeah, so it was good. And we'll of course brief council at the appropriate time on those meetings and results, but it was a good conversation.
I plan to attend that policing one and then realize that it was the same time as back to school start today.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So you went to school instead?
I went to school instead, yeah.
That's good. Councillor D'Andrade, your lips are moving, but I'm not hearing anything.
I was going to ask, you were elected to participate on the committee about the RCMP reform, right? Have you had already meetings?
Well, I made a presentation to the Police Act Reform Committee. Yes, I did. Yes, and that was that would have been in June, I think. Made that presentation. Yeah, and so they're still working on that project.
Okay. Is it just one shot? That's it?
It's just one shot, yeah, and it just was to express a view. We had submitted a paper report and then made a presentation on that.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay.
There we go. Very sorry and thank you. So yeah, we are at the purpose that out of this meeting, the purpose is to share the details of the proposal, the referral comments, and ADP recommendations from the ADP meeting that was held on August 25th, and to obtain a recommendation to council on next steps for the proposed zoning amendment, including scheduling of a public hearing and preliminary comments on the form and character of the proposed development in relation to the DPA 8 guidelines. So in the context of the zoning amendment process, council may give first and second reading to the bylaw at tonight's meeting. And assuming that the application proceeds, we'll schedule a public hearing prior to the third reading. And at third reading, following the public hearing, direction is given to notify the Ministry of Transportation for approval of the draft bylaw. And finally, adoption is at fourth reading of council. As the council knows, certainly, but I thought I'd throw that in for the public's benefit as well. At any of these stages, council may defeat the bylaw and request that changes be made. So the process for the form and character development permit, by contrast, is shorter. We have referred the application to agencies as well as the ADP for comment, and these are included in the report. Some revisions have been made preemptively in response to the ADP's comments, and these comments will be shared with council. The ADP's comments will be shared with council for a decision following the public hearing on the zoning amendment. So today we're just looking for preliminary comments with a decision to follow the public hearing on the zoning amendment. As described in the plans attached to the report, the proposal is for 28 ground-oriented units within 10 buildings. 8 of the buildings have 3 units and 2 are duplexes. And unit sizes range from 1 to 3 bedrooms. The site plan shows the proposed organization of the development, which is along a central laneway. Units on Park Road, these ones down here, are accessed and oriented both to the lane and the street, while the row of units at the east side of the property, shown at the top of the page, are accessed from the lane only, with private outdoor spaces to the rear. And the property and lane are to be accessed by a new road dedication provided off of Park Road. That's this piece right here shown in orange. Through development on neighboring properties at the top of the photo, this would eventually form a new road connection with Aurora Way, parallel to Reed Road as envisioned in the Upper Gibsons neighborhood concept plan. A snip of the plan is shown at right, that's the yellow image here. And yeah, so this is the road that is being dedicated through this proposal. And at the south, there's also a trail envisioned for the property, and that's being offered as a part of this through an easement as a part of this project as well. A change of zone is to be consistent with the vision for the property as described in the OCP. As much of the properties within the Upper Gibsons neighborhood plan, the OCP designates 834 Park Road for development under the land use designation of low density residential 2. And the intent of this designation is to permit small lot, single detached dwellings, duplexes, cluster housing, townhouses, and multi-unit housing in a single detached building form with an FSR of 0.75 to a maximum FSR of 0.9. This is generally 25 to 40 units per hectare. The intent for land use in the Upper Gibsons neighborhood plan area is further described in policy 9.2.4, with the intent to encourage a range of ground-oriented housing types, including small lot, single detached houses, semi-detached houses, duplexes, cluster housing, townhouses, fee simple row housing, and multi-unit development in a single detached form, and garden suites. The current zoning of the property and surrounding properties is single family and 2-family residential 3. The proposed zoning amendment would change the zoning from single family R3 to the RCL cluster zone that was designed for use in the Upper Gibsons neighborhood area and has been previously applied in Parkland and on the property to the south on Park Road. In line with the intent of the OCP, low density residential 2 land use designation, the allowed uses would be expanded to include duplexes, apartments, and townhouses, in addition to the single family residential use that's already permitted. It is the intent of the designation that the dwelling would have a form that fits well within dwellings have a form that fits well within single detached residential neighborhood context. As discussed in the report, the zoning amendment includes a recommendation to remove the requirement that the upper story of the buildings have a net floor area of no more than 80% of the lower floor area. The intent of this regulation was to limit upper story massing. However, in practice, it's shown to be problematic to implement, and also it's redundant in its intent to the form and character of the form and character guidelines. As part of a zoning amendment application that increases the density for the property, the applicant has provided a letter outlining proposed community amenity contribution. The letter is attached to the report and proposes a cash contribution calculated based on the terms of the town's most recent draft CAC policy. This was provided to the applicants as the best guidance we could offer at this point. The offer includes a provision of $112,000 with credit for the existing use permitted on the lot, and with further credit to be valued for the contribution of a public trail easement, which is provided in kind at the south end of the property. So meanwhile, the applicant is also looking into the potential of securing affordable housing units through a partnership with BC Housing, and so intends that should an in-kind contribution of affordable housing units be feasible, the offer would be adjusted through a future request to council. The total value of the contribution, presumably to council, I guess the mechanisms need to be worked out. The total value of the contribution is to be finalized prior to the adoption of the bylaw amendment. So the plans attached to this report were reviewed by staff and have been shared with the advisory design panel for comment in relation to the development permit area guidelines. Following the report, in response to the panel's comments, the applicants have revised the plan in some minor ways to include pedestrian connections from the units to Park Road and to show more detailed renderings of the garages on the lane. So the images I will share here are the revised renderings. It should be noted that the planned trees and other landscape materials are not shown in the architectural renderings, such as the one you're looking at right now. They are shown in the landscape plan. And this is an aerial view of the buildings and the general layout as shown from the northwest corner of the property. So the units vary in their designs with 5 floor plans repeated once each in the development and adapted to the location of each dwelling on the property. The massing of each cluster is broken visually with variation in roof lines and the use of architectural and finishing details. Front entrances are oriented to the central lane, as shown in this east view, and where parking, a communal outdoor space, and playground are located, with additional entrances oriented to Park Road for those units adjacent to the street. As shown in these 2 views from the lane, 6 small garages with sheltered bicycle parking are located on the lane and to be clad with materials on the residential building, with the materials that are used in the residential buildings. Pedestrian paths connect the units with one another, as well as with parking and public outdoor spaces, and along with landscape plantings, provide gentle definition between the public and private front yard spaces. The top image in this slide shows the proposed community garden at the south of the lot, adjacent to the public trail. A planned fence and plantings screening the garden area from the trail are not shown in this rendering. The lower image is a snip of the landscape plan showing the planned common space and play area to be centrally located on the lane and buffered from parking areas with ornamental perennial shrub and tree plantings. So as they've not been previously shared, here are a few more of the revised renderings that were sent, including a view of the play area. I think this is probably a placeholder play structure, not that provided in the landscape plan. And at right, a view illustrating the planned lighting on the buildings, which is tucked under the awnings and within the porches and balconies. The landscape plan attached to the report is too large to show here in full detail, but details significant tree and shrub plantings, which provide distinction between public and private outdoor spaces and soften the appearance of buildings and parking areas. Plantings buffer the driveway and parking areas, define public spaces from private spaces, and soften the appearance of the buildings in the local and neighborhood context. Plantings at the top of the plan provide a transition to the undeveloped, well, shown here at the top of the plan, provide a transition to undeveloped neighboring properties to the east, up above. Overall, staff finds that the form and character guidelines of DPA 8 are well considered by the proposal and well addressed. So the advisory design panel reviewed the form and character of the project at its meeting on August 25th, as well as the zoning amendment request. And the panel was generally supportive of both the proposed zoning amendment and the form and character. The recommendations of the panel included retaining mature trees where possible on the southern right-of-way and on the park road frontage. Also adding pedestrian connections to the building frontages on Park Road. The applicant has since revised the plans to include these, and to provide better renderings of the garages for council's considerations, and that is shown here. They were unfinished in the previous version of the renderings. These have, the ADP also provided a recommendation reflecting a concern about the quality of the tree survey provided for the proposal. Part of this concern related to trees at the south of the lot that a member understood to be on the property and not included in the plan. The applicant has since followed up to clarify that the survey showed the trees in fact to be off-site, and also that retaining the trees would benefit the project, and so there was no intention that they be removed. If they are found to be on the lot, they would hope to keep them. Staff's recommendations are listed on page 1 of the report as copied here. In summary, the zoning amendment received first and second readings, and that a public hearing be scheduled, and that the committee provide preliminary comments on the form and character. So I'll turn the screen back to you for discussion, but please note that we have the property owner Alex Sayin and project architects Lynn Ramos and Rosa Salcido available to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kirsten, for your presentation. I'm going to, could you stop sharing screen now, please? Thank you.
Sorry, not too many monitors.
Yeah. Before I go to council for any questions, I have a couple myself, and one is the road on the north side of the project, the proposed new road. Where is that intended to go? Right now, it appears it's between that property and the single family property that would bounce on Reed Road. Where is that proposed new road intended to go in terms of the overall road strategy for the town?
Yeah, so this road, I wish I had a map ready to pull up for you, but it's meant to connect through sort of at the same parallel that it's running currently, parallel to Reed Road as an access road to provide circulation off of Reed. And it would connect with, was it Aurora Way? I think that it would run along parallel Reed, and then there would have to be a dip further across the properties to connect with Aurora, and then through that development continue to North Road.
So it'll go to across Sunnycrest then, or connect to Sunnycrest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then in between the buildings, it seems fairly tight. If that was single-family homes on individual lots, there would be required setbacks. What is the setback required for that kind of construction, or do we look at for that kind of construction?
So there is not the requirement on the cluster within the cluster zoning, because it's one lot, we would defer to a building permit for that. And I believe the setback would be 1.5 meters. Don't quote me, for the building, based on the building code, but there are firewalls and all kinds of things that can be done to address any setback, is my understanding. With a single family dwelling, it would typically be about 1.5 meters. And so we're really looking at form and character for, in terms of considering that right now.
Well, it would be 1.5 meters on one side, and then the balancing house on the other side would have another setback. So it'd be to property line. So it'd actually be either 3 or 5.1, 3.1.
3, it should be 3, and yeah, and the proposed here is 3, I understand.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll defer to other council members now who might have questions. Councilor Dean-Drad.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I share the same concern with the distance, and not only for privacy issue, but with air circulation, breeze circulation. I mean, I was actually reading some reports, some scientific reports, where it says that the urban island effect have been considered one of the major environmental crises in the 21st century. And this will pose serious threat to the urban societies. We just experienced a big heat wave. This is going to increase. So this is one of my concerns. I'm not saying that. I would like to hear, and this is specific, how we are addressing that, including the type of windows. Because I know certain buildings that the way the windows open, you cannot have proper air circulation. So you would need air conditioning. So you would increase electricity costs and so on. So this is one concern. Another concern I have is densification at this point in time. We are about to receive, in a few months, we will receive a study letting us know the state of our aquifer, right? How is recharging. And right now, I feel hesitant. I understand that densification is great to provide housing. I also understand we are in a crisis, so no question. But we cannot solve one crisis and accentuating another one. So I have a little bit of concern in this regard as well, because we have many development in front of us. And until we have done the calculation based on the new study and really put into perspective, how much do we have in place? I feel, we are in a crisis in the Sunshine Coast overall, not in Gibsons in particular, but we are already having to lend water to our neighbors. Well, okay, I have maybe other stuff, but I'll stop here.
Kirsten, any quick response on Councillor Dean-Drad's before I go to Councillor Ludwig?
I may be able to address in part. One is the urban heat island effect. I know that relates to reflection of, well, more about lot cover rather than the separation of the buildings, I would expect. The lot cover proposed here is 50%, which is quite in line with a single family residential development. In terms of the 500, I can't speak to the airflow piece. Mm-hmm. The densification, I noted in the Upper Gibsons neighborhood plan, it's my understanding that the vision was to provide 500 additional units within the Upper Gibsons neighborhood plan. So this would provide 28 units towards that envisioned 500 units. Of course, this wouldn't reflect any more recent studies, so I can't speak to that either.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Ludwig.
Yeah, first off, I'd just like to say that I really like this development. I like the fact that it seems very family oriented. I like the additional effort that's been made to put in the playground area, the play structures, the community gardens. I actually like the fact that that we've gone this route rather than just a big townhouse building. Like even if there isn't a lot of spacing in between each unit, it is still airflow and it does give that sense of separation from your neighbors. So I really like the concept. So the only question I had actually was with regard to that road conversation that Mayor Beamish and Kirsten were just describing. I was wondering if you could explain it for me again, because I just didn't follow the road plan very well, and I apologize for that. But so where's the road coming and going? I just see a laneway going into the development, and then it's stopping at an easement. So maybe I'm just not following that.
I should have had the foresight to pull up a map while we were discussing.
Kirsten, you did have a map on your PowerPoint presentation of the road.
Oh, okay. I will pull that up again if I can manage it. Was that Leslie on the neighborhood plan?
Yeah,
SNP?
yeah, because it's essentially coming from the concept plan from the Upper Gibsons neighborhood plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Share. Okay.
Rosa and Lynn, we're not ignoring you. We see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, she'll find her there. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll just, it was, here. Yeah, so you're looking over here. This is a confusing image because this is Reed Road right here. It is only shown in half. So we have Reed Road, Park Road. This doesn't exist yet.
Okay.
And so these are some undeveloped. We have the subject property right here. There are 3 or more undeveloped properties in here.
Yeah.
It would be connected at the point that those are developed and rezoned, and would connect through the top along Reed Road to Aurora and that subdivision up at that end.
Okay, thank you. That.
No. Looking at that though, where are we going west from Park Road? It appears that it's going to go through the Parkland subdivision. Is that correct?
Yes, that there are 2 exits to be developed from the Parkland subdivision, and I am assuming, I haven't looked at how this one relates to that one recently, but I assume those are going to be connected.
Okay, interesting. I didn't think there was going to be another exit from Parkland at that point. I thought it was going to be over to Park Road by Woodsworth. That's interesting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm correct in saying.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Other questions, councillors? Concerns? Councillor Crowell, I'll go to you first.
Thank you. I was at the committee meeting when this was presented, and I like the idea of cluster housing, being able to bring hopefully more affordable housing into the marketplace. I'm only saying this as a concern coming into the project. It seems like there's a bit of homage to the vehicle. You come in the lane into the project, and it's parking stalls and garages with a small spot of sort of a community play area for children, and it's obviously aimed at. I'm just be curious from a developer's point of view, and this would be a question probably for Rosa and Lynn. What would this do to the cost of your project to consider underground parking? To be able to make, a nice, attractive just laneway into the project, a couple of visitors parking stalls, but the 28 residents would have underground secure parking. And so it's just a question for the developers, and it was something I would have liked to have seen addressed at our other meeting, but it was discussed, but it didn't really come up fully.
Who wants to handle that, Rosa or Lynn?
I just want to mention that definitely cost issues is the biggest consideration. I understand it's $50,000 to $60,000 per stall when we add underground parking. And the one thing that is somehow helping the fact that the cars are on ground is that we are doing all permeable pavers on that area. The only area that is paved with asphalt is the lane itself. But we are going to make sure that all the parking areas and walkways are all paved with pavers, so the material is more friendly. It's not so rough surface. And there is another development 2 lots away that is a similar concept, where only the road is paved and the parking areas are pavers or green landscape, so that it creates a slowdown and at the same time more friendly materials. I believe that it will have a big impact on cost going underground. And I'm not sure yet because I understand the aquifer studies are ongoing, but how deep the water may be on this area. So it may be a consideration if we were to go underground.
Thank you.
Councilor Jane Radis, you have another question? Go ahead.
Yes, as regards to the trees, I understand, I think I read 96 trees will be planted. Is it correct? I don't know why I saw this number, but I just want to know how many trees will be, and I know you mentioned something about trees for cooling reasons, obviously, and I like that, but how many trees will be planted in, like, to protect the homes?
Who has that? Kirsten, you have that, or?
Is that a question for me? Honestly, I have seen the landscape plan, and they includes a significant number of trees. I haven't counted them or don't recall what the number is, but there are a significant number of trees in the front and the rear of each of the buildings, on the sides, and buffering the property within the boulevard and the entrance to the property. So there are a significant number of trees. They're all shown with the circles with a dot in the middle in the landscape plan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have a number.
There is a schedule on the landscape, a tree schedule counting the numbers. However, it includes some of the bushes. So the tall trees are on the front, and the count is there, and it is more than 100 trees, but some of them are bushes that are lower.
Okay. I wasn't sure, because sometimes we can take the compensation of the 90s for the 90 trees, but plant someone else. I just want to make sure that they would be in the area. And going back to my question about breeze or air circulation, is this being addressed? Because it is a preoccupation that I have in the future, maybe not too much in the next 5 years, but it could be drastic in the next 20 years. It could be, in certain places becomes almost unbearable. I know we're still not too populated. There's a lot of air circulation, but just as understanding climate change and how it's impacting, if there is a study being considered when developing the cluster, this type of housing, which I appreciate. I mean, don't take me wrong, sorry. I don't want to just criticize. I think the project is really beautiful. And like Councillor Ledwig mentioned, but it's just these concerns that I have.
Sorry, is this a question for the?
Yeah, it's a question like if the air circulation is being taken into consideration, right? Because one thing is when you do single family, so you probably don't need to do too much of study, especially, they are not tall buildings, the massing is smaller. But when you start compacting, you're gonna have a circulation effect. Obviously, the trees, when they grow, they're gonna minimize that. They can cool up to 5 degrees. It helps. But I'm just talking about if there's consideration to air circulation, because we will be experiencing heat waves.
There has not been a specific study for the air circulation, but we do have the 3 lines of circulation behind the townhouse in the middle, which is significant, and at the front. Now, in between the clusters, we have 3 meters, and we have proposed some bushes on that area only. Now, in regards to the comment that you were talking earlier about ventilation, all windows will have openable portion, and with the requirements for the step code, we probably go to high energy type window. We have not selected it yet, but they will be openable. So I think the only portion where we will have perhaps a little bit of stagnation of air will be in between the clusters, but from front to back, it's still a 3-meter separation.
Okay, thank you.
Officer, did you have something?
Yes, I've been attempting to move Alex Elian over as a panelist. He's the owner of this property. He is showing is able to speak, but his video, I haven't been able to get him to function fully as a panelist. And I'm wondering, Alex, are you able to speak? Can I give you a moment and see if you're able to talk to us?
Yes, I can. Hello, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Yeah. You've heard some of the questions. Do you have any kind of comments on the questions that have been raised?
I did hear all the questions, yes, and Rosa answered all the questions actually that I would have answered. Same as Kirsten. So if you have any questions for me, I'm here to answer them for you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lumley.
I actually like the project. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that the CAC is just like still in draft form. I think if I'd like to prioritize this council to, I don't know, because it's like I've made this complaint many times, is when you have a development going in and you've got an affordable housing crisis, you know, sometimes money just doesn't cut it. So, you know, we just have to get a little bit more creative and provide an affordable home for someone in the project itself. That's what I like to see happen, but I know I say this every time, but just getting money sometimes is I don't know, it doesn't do it. And you're in there already spending the money and time, and you're constructing homes. You know, getting cash, you'd have to build up so much cash to construct one home. The developer's already there building homes. It'd be nice to see something, you know, in something, it doesn't have to be given away. It can be maintained by the contractor, but managed by the Affordable Housing Society. Just something. I mean, it just doesn't seem that we put a good enough effort into, everyone says affordable housing, and I'm saying it now, but it just doesn't seem like we go far enough as a town commitment to affordable housing. So it's easy to say that's one thing to do it. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Like, I like it. I think it looks great. That's my only gripe is with the amenity package. Plus if I'm not, I don't have it in front of me. I've got I think it was on, well, there was a letter in here too, but I think it said less the easement trail, like less the value of the easement trail. So it's really not $94,000, is it? So anyway, that was my only consideration.
I think that's one thing that will still be worked out, because we'll be seeing the CACs back on the September 21st agenda. And maybe by that time, before this is all done and approved, we would have a new policy in place for that. So I like the project as well. But I like the project of the Habitat for Humanity project in Wilson Creek better. Also duplexes, but just so spacious between them in terms of the space. And I know it's a larger property, but I just feel that this is, to me, feels a little bit tight as a project. And I don't know what the solution to that is. I get the impression as well from looking at, and I'll look at it again, the current Longman development on Park Road. It seems to be a little bit more open in the area as well. I just get that sense, but I'll look at it again and see it. This one just seems to be lines up of rows of similar footprints and with a very narrow passage between them, which may be filled with a fence. I don't know what the plan is in between the units. So I'd rather see a proper setback of 1.5 on one side and with a 3.5 or 3 meters on the other side. So you've got a setback like you'd have on a house, which allows a firefighter to haul hoses between buildings, which is really part of the value of a setback. But that's my sense. Overall, I like the concept of the project. Councilor D'Andrade, you had your hand up again.
Yes, Mayor Beamish, just following on the point that Councilor Lumley mentioned, I understood, I mean, the CAC policy, but so it is clear, but at the same time, we had a housing policy where we said any building over 10 would provide, at least every 10 would provide, or above 10 would provide a unit or whatever is the negotiation. Does it mean because we build the CAC, we are not considering this anymore? I think this is still in place, right? We didn't disregard the housing policy at this point.
Yeah, but Director of Planning, do you have a response to that?
Yeah, so our current policy basically says that any development with more than 10 units must provide a CAC contribution. It doesn't give a target rate or any, like, it doesn't give much around what kind of contribution that should be. So we've taken trails, we've taken price per door above the 10 units. We've taken rental units as well. So the current policy or the current draft policy takes a target rate per every added unit in accordance with the density increase. So it's a little bit different, but it includes a target rate in there.
Council, what are your wishes? We have recommendations on page 7 of the report. Are you prepared to move it, at least to public hearing? Do we hear from the community on the project? Councilor Ladwig, you move the recommendations. Councilor Kroll, you'll second them. Okay. Bearing in mind, there's still work to be done, and this will come back to us again, and CACs will come back to us again as well. But it allows the project to move that one step closer and hear from the public as to what they're thinking on this. Okay. Any further questions before I call the question? Councilor D'Andrade?
Yes, a question to the developer. What is our report, our aquifer report? We're gonna receive in few months. So is there any issue just waiting this proposal until we have assurance and then we can embrace it? Because my concern is once you cannot say yes to one densification and no to another. Everybody is willing to increase densification. So now we are stuck with we are talking about a water crisis. I know Gibsons in particular is not, but we have a study coming forward. So is it possible? So is there like a big loss if the developer wait until we have certainty? Because I myself, obviously I would like to endorse this project. I know we need housing, but I'm concerned with increasing density. Not if it was just this only project, but there will be a series of projects. So how can I say yes to this and no to the next? It's just a little, it's concerning to me.
Yeah, I guess my observation on that, it would become first come, first served in terms of a planning and process is what we would say to somebody further down the line. Right now, we understand from the original water study that we have sufficient waters for 7,200 population. And I believe we're well under that. And I don't think we have that either included in approved building permits right now. But I hear what you're saying. and we will have that that report. I understand it's more in the new year as opposed to this year, but and I don't know who can answer that. Director of Infrastructure, do you have a sense, or corporate officer, do you have a sense of when that report's due? Like your lips are moving.
No, I don't have a date for when that report is due. I do wish to note that Alex has his hand raised.
Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
It was just with regards to the CAC, somebody mentioned $94,000, but it's actually $102,000. The building is not the dwelling is not a duplex, so there's no credit for the duplexes. So I actually revised the letter and sent it back to Leslie and Kirsten. So it's $102,000.
Yeah. What is your time frame on this, Alex, in terms of development? We do approve a number of projects, and that then once approval is given, they sit and sit for a considerable length of time before anybody takes out a building permit. What is your schedule?
We're not planning to sit. We're planning to move this project forward as soon as possible.
Yeah.
We're paying a mortgage on the property. We have very high expenses, so we're not planning to wait or sit at all.
Yeah. As your demolition of the existing house, consider recycling a product?
Yes.
Good to hear. Yeah. And I think we have to take into consideration and talk about the whole issue of water and development, and that will be coming once we get that report. But we're, I think, a long way from where we are in that water target, simply because there's very few projects moving forward. And I think of the one that the 20 units we approved earlier this year, a walk past that site on up Hillcrest, on Hillcrest. It's still just a field of knotweed. There's no action there at all, certainly. So some projects move forward, and other projects seem to wait a considerable length of time. So motion on the floor. Motions on the floor. Councilor D'Andrade again. Yeah.
Just a clarification, because the last meeting, the Director of Infrastructure mentioned the report will be coming at the end of the year. That's what he said.
Okay, I wasn't sure of the timing. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Councilor D'Andrade, thank you. So that will.
Mayor Beamish, just to clear,
yeah.
I'm not opposed to the development. I would like just to have the report before, and that's my concern.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so this moves forward then to first and second reading for council on the 21st. Sorry, on the first, second reading, which will take place on the 21st, and then a public hearing also scheduled for the 21st. And just to remind council, I won't be here for that time. So Councilor D'Andrade, will be your public hearing on that date. And so the recommendations will come forward to tonight's council to move it forward. So, okay.
Mayor Beamish.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a process clarification. You made a comment about the setbacks. So are you? So we are proceeding with the current setbacks, or there is a request for the at this point for the developer to change the setbacks?
I'd like to hear what the public hearing says, but to change the setbacks, if you go to a bigger setback, it's going to cost you units because I don't believe they could get them on that site without at least perhaps removing the two residential unit buildings. So that would be something the developer, something we'd have to consider, and we can certainly still do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item on our agenda, and this is another form of character, and this is a Director of Planning, rezoning and form and character development permit for cluster residential development at proposed lots 37 and 38 on Celia Crescent. And thank you, Lynn and Rosa and Eric. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you make it a little bit bigger for my eyes, please?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Does that work?
This works perfectly. Thank you.
All right. So this is a zoning amendment for lots 37 and 38 Celia Crescent. Celia Crescent is a new road in the Parkland subdivision. So the purpose of this report is to obtain a recommendation to council on the zoning amendment. So it's to change the zone from R3 to the cluster residential, and then to seek some preliminary comments on the form and character of the development. So this map shows the location of the lots. So on the left here shows the two lots that have recently been subdivided. The subdivision has been registered at the land titles office. And there are two lots in here, so proposed lots 38 and 37 that are being rezoned with this application. So
Sorry, can I push you back to that last map, please? That road that we just saw on the previous application does not appear on this map.
No, it does not. So there's just a pedestrian access for connectivity, but the main entrance is through Woodsworth. Okay, so the traffic would come in through Woodsworth and then up Wright Road.
And looking at the other map that we have there, beside that, again, that new road that showed on the other plan does not show on this plan.
That's right. Yeah. There is the fire access or backup access would go through this. This is all a park right here. So this is park dedication and this lot is park dedication. So there would be emergency fire access through here.
So just putting my thinking cap on again, and I'm wondering about that new road. We show it on one plan as coming across, but we don't show it on this plan. How strongly are we committed to that? Because without that road, if it was just a lane access through there as opposed to a road, then you could actually move those buildings on the first project we were talking about on Park Road to provide a little bit more breathing space, as we discussed. I was surprised to see that road, I guess, through there. I hadn't understood that road connection to Aurora was actually the plan.
Yeah, so the road was taken as an intention to sort of take that neighborhood plan concept and then include it in the properties further over. So where are we? Further over behind London Drugs and the school.
Yeah.
So there is an opportunity to bring that road through those properties. But it's not, if council would like to see the development spread out over more land, then you can ask for that.
Just bear that in mind, council, when we're looking at that road really did kind of constrict that site more. I wouldn't propose to see an additional residential going in there, but it would allow us to provide more breathing space, airspace within that project. And I realize we're not talking about this particular project here, and everybody, I hope, understands that. We're talking about the one that we just sent to public hearing, but there is that opportunity, and I won't be here for the public hearing. So, okay, so sorry, Director, we are just looking at two things in proximity. So, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so here's a map of the proposal. So lot 38 has 5 4-unit townhouses on it. And lot 37 has a mix of 2 3-unit buildings and then 3 4-unit buildings. And they all have this central courtyard design. So there's 10 new buildings in total. 8 have 4 units, 2 have 3 units, and there's a total of 38 new residential units. 1 triplex will be retained by the developer on lot 37 as purpose-built rental units, and then 1 fourplex will be retained on lot 38 for purpose-built rental. So the land use designation designates the land as low density residential 2. So it's this, this hatched or this diagonal area. And that designation basically is intended to permit small lot, single detached dwellings, duplexes, cluster housing, townhouses, and multi-unit housing in a single detached building form with a floor space ratio of 0.75 to a maximum of 0.9. And then in brackets, generally 25 to 40 units per hectare. There is a policy in the OCP for this designation that encourages ground-oriented housing, and then it also speaks to duplexes, cluster housing, and townhouses. So the zoning designation is consistent with the OCP land use designation. So right now, all these properties in this yellow are currently designated R3, and the proposal is to rezone it to this RCL zone. So there are spots of it, and then 837, or I think it's 837, is the one that's also being rezoned to
The other side. The other side.
it, sorry, okay, it's 834. Sorry, it's been a month. Okay, so the proposed zoning change is existing would be R3, so it's going from single family duplex, density 1 to 2 units per property, an 8-meter height, 50% lot coverage, to the RCL, which now allows the townhouse unit. The density is increasing to 45 units per hectare. The height remains similar depending on the slope of the roof, and then the lot coverage is still the same. So what's also being removed in this zoning amendment is that 80% upper story net floor area, as that's been really challenging to implement. And it's more of a form and character consideration. So essentially, the zoning amendment is to increase the density. So for the CAC contribution, again, we shared the draft policy with the developer, and what they are proposing is for of the 38 units, they are going to retain 7 units as market rental, and then they've provided a $4,000 contribution for 31 units, which comes out to be $124,000. So that is consistent with the draft policy at this point. So the next 10 slides are, I'll go through them fairly quickly. They are images that show the form and character for the committee's preliminary comments, although the form and character development permit cannot be issued until the zoning allows the use. So here's an image of lot 37 of the 3-unit townhouse. So there's 1, 2, and then 3. This shows the access from the interior courtyard, and it shows the gray vertical board and batten with white horizontal hardy board, blue hardy shakes, gray stone, a black roof, and gray trim and gray garages. Sorry, I was pointing at the wrong screen here. So there's 1 unit, the 2nd unit is in the middle, and then the 3rd unit on the end. So this image shows the right and left elevations of the 3-unit townhouse with snow white horizontal hardy board, blue hardy shakes, and gray trim. So this shows the color palette for the 3-unit. Here's the view from the public street. Again, gray vertical board and batten, white horizontal hardy board, blue hardy shakes, and some gray stone, and a black roof. And this is a rendering as viewed from the interior courtyard. This is the 4-unit townhouse. So here's 1 unit, another unit, unit 2, unit 3 right here, and then unit 4. This is the view of the front elevation from the interior courtyard. So it looks like 2 main entrances. It's got black roof, moonlight moss green board and batten, gray horizontal hardy board, midnight surf blue hardy shakes with a white trim and white garage doors. This shows the side elevations and the color palettes, which are the grays and greens and the white trim. This is the view from the public street. So there is a door fronting the public street for pedestrian access and orientation from the street. And this is a rendering of the 4-unit townhouse from the courtyard, from the interior courtyard. So from the staff's analysis and the evaluation of against the form and character guidelines, staff considers that this proposal fits with the character of the neighborhood in the Parkland subdivision, and the design provides for high quality livable forms of housing in a walkable neighborhood. And with 7 units retained by the developer for rental housing, these units will provide residents with high quality rental housing options. So this is a proposed detailed landscape plan. It's probably pretty hard to see on your screens because you do have to zoom in to look at it in detail, but it provides a mix and a variety of trees, shrubs, grasses, and perennials. And then it shows here the number of trees that are being proposed and the number of trees that are being planted, the shrubs, grasses, and perennials. In terms of the trees, there's the paperback maple, the Canadian serviceberry, the forest pansy redbud, a hybrid dogwood, sweet gum, and a spruce tree, or a number of them. So in terms of referrals were sent to these agencies here. The Squamish have not provided comments at this point. The design panel, the advisory design panel supports the zoning amendment, and they did suggest some changes to the development permit prior to issuance. Those changes were to reduce the massing of the roof. They suggested use of skylights. They also suggested muting the visual party wall lines, so using a different level of filigree, such as a softer wood panel to make the building look more cohesive. There was also a comment about color, adding some color to help differentiate the units, and changing the landscaping towards the side doors to improve pedestrian access and circulation, such as the use of trellises. So these have not been implemented in the plans yet. It's just going to committee, and then if you have any comments, we can bring those back to the developer. In terms of the fire department, fire code requirements would have to be met at the time of the building permit issuance. So that includes fire access, firewalls, and all that kind of thing. The Ministry of Transportation granted preliminary approval. Vancouver Coastal Health had no concerns. The Finance Department commented that increased density will result in an overall increase of taxable residential assessment value. The increased assessment value based taxes, as well as parcel taxes and utility user fees, will be applied accordingly. Infrastructure had requested driveway locations in relation to the approved civil design drawing. So we'll just need more details to come up with the civil plan. And then the building department had no concerns. And these are all in detail in the staff report as well. So the recommendations here are to forward the bylaw to council tonight for first and second readings, and to schedule an electronic public hearing to begin at 6 p.m. on September 21st, and that the committee provides preliminary comments on the form and character, and that these recommendations be forwarded to council for tonight's adoption. So the applicant, Nicole Hagedorn, is in the audience as well, if council would like to have any questions directed to her. Yeah. Thank you. So I'll stop sharing my screen and let you discuss.
Thank you very much. And perhaps, Corporate Officer, you could move Nicole into the meeting, just in case any council has any questions. I'm going to start off again. I'm going to ask to the planner. I if these properties were developed as single family, what is the net increase in density? in terms of numbers of units. So these are right now they're zoned single family. And so the developer could proceed with current zoning and put single family on all these spaces. What is the net difference?
So are you talking about for each of these two lots that are to be rezoned?
That's correct.
So right now under the R3 zone, they could build a duplex. So maximum 2 market, I guess you could sell like 2 units on each lot, but they could also put a secondary suite in each duplex unit. So in total for the 2 lots, they could have 8 units, but they could only sell 4.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Thank you. My biggest concern with this is that increase in density without an additional access into the subdivision. Having lived there, it's a busy place. It's a busy place currently. It's going to be even busier with the number of homes that are being developed there. And it's not just that. We're very fortunate to have a very attractive, and thank you to the developer, a very attractive tennis court, which also generates a lot of traffic in another development. And are you aware of any plans from the adjacent property owner to develop between this site and the Park Road?
We've been in communications with the owner and an architect over many years. So we've received a few different sort of concepts, but I don't know when they'll actually submit an application.
Does that road right away currently exist across that property to join for Wordsworth Road to connect? I mean, we'll walk it as a trail right now, but does it exist as a right of way?
I would have to check the latest proposal to see if it's actually there.
Yeah, because that's my biggest concern is adding density into that site before there's another access opportunity for people just to get out in the event of a fire. The intention is that they'll be able to go over towards Park Road in the long term, but that's certainly not available. They can't go out onto Reed Road, so you simply got the one exit onto Pratt Road, which is congested at times. So that's my concern on that. I have some others questions, and I'll defer to council on those. And I saw Councilor Ladwig's hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to second your concern, Mayor Beamish. I don't understand why there isn't an entrance or exit onto Reed Road, right smack dab in the middle. I mean, even from a sellability perspective, like the Bonnybrook development area, the one complaint people often have with that development area is that you can't just get to Upper Gibsons from it. It's cut off. And it's a frustration for people. And so why would you want a development that, like, it just feels like a natural, you want to be able to get onto Reed from that area. And so it would seem beneficial to everyone to have that. And so I'm wondering why that was not ever discussed. Or maybe it wasn't, or why it's not in the plan, sorry.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for you right now. I think, Nicole might recall. There we go.
Yeah, so trust me, if we could have more accesses to the subdivision, we would have had it. It was all done by the pre-planners and MOTI, and that's all we have. The trail that goes to Park Road is road allowance, so that should be a road developed by the people that own that property.
Thank you. Yeah.
So just on that, if I could, is that not something that now with new council, new planners, that we couldn't push back on and try again for, and just leave one lot for the time being open for exploration into that option?
Oh,
I don't know how long ago those negotiations took place.
Well, this has been a 20-year process.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you mean from like to Payne Road? To Reed Road?
Yeah.
Reed Road, that MOTI
said no. Bright Road.
Sorry?
Yeah, Right Road to Reed Road.
Right Road to Park Road?
No, Reed.
No, Reed.
There's no There's no access permitted to Reed Road, and that was a Modi decision. There's a road there now, which is only allowed for construction traffic.
Yeah.
That is actually a lot in the subdivision, and it's to be closed off. It was for like a 2-year period or something.
Is this not something, and now I'm looking to Mayor Beamish, is this not something that we could write to Modi about and say we feel that this would be better for our community? Because I really do think it would be.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
No, it's a concern. And yeah, Councillor Crowell, I'll go to you next.
Just sort of being devil's advocate, in other areas of the community, we're looking at closing roads to restrict access through neighborhoods because people use them for shortcuts. They're not residents of the area. They go whizzing through way above the speed limit. And now we're looking at closing streets to traffic calm. So when, you know, with the fire access that is proposed, you know, it's you're sort of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But, you know, I could see down the road putting in hypothetically, were there an access to Reed, then you'd get everyone and their dog who lives in other areas of parkland cutting through this area to get to their residence in one of the existing without having to go to Payne and come down and through. So I think you sometimes have to be careful what you ask for. And, you know, basically it's going to be local traffic. You know, it's not like people are going to go joyriding through this neighborhood, you know, maybe the realtors when they've got listings, but other than that, you know, it's going to be local traffic.
I think the challenge we're referring to is more of emergency exit. If there was a reason to have to evacuate and get out of the subdivision in a hurry, there's only one way. And that becomes congestion. That's really what we're thinking of, is having that. You know, when you talk about Glassford Road, for example, they have many other opportunities to get off of Glassford Road and get onto other areas. This has only one way out. It's envisioned eventually it'll be out to Park Road, and that's why I say that my preference would be to have Park Road developed, that Woodsworth extension developed to Park Road before we increase the density, which in an area it's already going to have. Nicole, help me. How many homes in total in Parkland?
Oh, sorry, in total? Well, yeah. We're doing 38 now.
Yeah. And
then we hope to do another 38.
Yeah. So, and you've already got how many in there? 50
something.
Yeah. So
sorry.
It's a significant number of 100
units. As far as access to Reed Road goes, those lots are all subdivided, designed, and the civil work's been done. It's getting paved next week. So that option is done. And they were flat out no, and another no on that. We tried really hard for that. Yeah. And you know, we didn't have to subdivide these lots. We could have we could just build 4 really expensive homes, but I don't really think that is the moral right thing to do with that piece of property and that location and what we've done before. So that's why we chose those lots, and we chose to try for this.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I understand what you're trying to, and I do value that. I value the density. I just also value the safety of residents that are currently there and their needs. You could, for all intents and purposes, leave those as future development in phase 5 or whatever. Or I don't know if it's at all possible to do build a latecomer road through to Park Road and then share the cost or have the cost put onto the other owner.
I don't know if that's attractive for us. We're so owed with all of our latecomers that we've paid into this project for so many years. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like,
at a minimum, I would like to see another traffic study that identifies the impact on that area with this proposal, unless there is a traffic study that incorporates this proposal. Planners are aware of a traffic study that includes these
I'm not aware of a recent one, no. And just to comment about the emergency access, there is an emergency access off Reed Road. So it's through the park dedication.
Is it an open driving access for the public, or is it a, yeah?
No, it's an emergency access. So it would be for fire or for exiting
Right.
if people needed to get out. And it connects to Celia Crescent.
Right. Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, just to follow up with Leslie Ann, that's that green stretch, right? That goes all the way to Park Road?
It's a green stretch.
Like on the map, it's on the official community plan map that you have on here, figure 8. Is that little green strip that goes
Yes.
up?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Councillor Dindra?
Thank you. Beside the traffic issue that you already raised, and obviously I appreciate the opportunity to build housing, but I have similar concerns with the density because we don't know the situation with our how our aquifer is behaving in the last 10 years. And also I would like to know, but because that's a question perhaps for the developer, the plan, or the planning department. I know landscape has been done at this point in time, with some exceptions, for beautification. I think we are changing that and doing a lot for weather, fire prevention, or cooling reasons. Are the trees, again, we don't have really a good landscape plan that we can see, but are the trees in this development being put for the purpose of cooling each unit? Is this strategic? I'm just curious because I can see this much needed, right? Each tree can cool a place like by 5 degrees. This is very significant. So I'm just trying to understand where we are in the planning world.
I would have to defer to the developer on that one, but there is a landscape plan attached to the report.
I know it's hard to see.
Yeah, you could zoom in and take a look at the species, and if you wanted to really dig down to find out what type of landscaping it is. I defer to Nicole for that one.
I think, Mayor Beamish, I'm not expert in the subject, but I was hoping that the experts in the subject could give, because I think this is a preoccupation, right? Whatever we are facing now is because we didn't consider in the past, not we, this council, but, politicians in the world. And in a way, we continue doing that, right? We talk, climate crisis, but we go business as usual. And another thing to mention, our strategic planning has the first bullet in the response to changing climate say, we will apply a climate lens to the planning and development of actions, plans, policies, and infrastructure projects. I rarely see this in our plans and projects, or the next project has some mention, but it's just about, parking will be, it's even hard to understand how the metrics was done. So I would like this to be really considered, because we are facing crisis because we don't face the issues when we have to. And again, I think we're gonna have our study very shortly. So we are not even putting, stalling development. I think it's just responsible if someone wants to increase density the same way, Mayor, that you're raising the issue of traffic. How can we not raise the issue of climate change and water and cooling? So I feel a little bit disconnected from this reality right now.
Yeah, and I don't know how to respond to that myself. I have confidence in the 2013 study and confidence in what I've heard in terms of the measurements of the aquifer, that the water that we have through residents and saving water, the reduction in use in water, has maintained the level of the aquifer still to that 2010 level, 2013 level. We haven't heard anything different on that. There's been even the preliminary work. There's no kind of stop what you're doing, or we're finding negative results and things like that. So I anticipate we'll have some new parameters, but I don't know what we'll have. So Council, where would you like to go with this? I mean, I appreciate we don't want to hold development there. Development is obviously happening up there. This is just another development. My preference at this time would be, before we move any further, is to see a new traffic study and see what the impact of this proposal would have on traffic. And see what, because that to me is the number one issue that this density provides, is just increased numbers of vehicles within the subdivision, both entering and leaving. And I don't know what kind of time frame that would take to do a new traffic study, up to update the current one, I guess. Director of Planning, do you have a thought?
It depends on availability. So I don't have the time frame for that.
Councilor Crowell?
You know, what I would suggest is that, you know, we take this to public hearing. For final approval, it still has to go through third reading following a public hearing. And in the interim, you know, the considerations could be given towards an additional traffic study. But, you know, from the project point of view, I like the idea that the densification is, you know, reducing impact with, you know, building great big huge sprawling houses with, you know, 4 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms. It is, and I particularly like the fact that the developers incorporated rental accommodation into the project. That, you know, which, you know, our meeting this morning with the RCMP, one of the issues was affordable housing for first responders. And, you know, this is something that would perhaps lend itself towards that. I know there is other rental accommodation coming into the community, but, you know, we're so far behind the 8 ball, it's not funny. So, you know, I would suggest that we, you know, move this to get it to the point of a public hearing and investigate the opportunity for a traffic study.
You're moving the recommendations appearing on page 43 of the agenda package. It's, to have a seconder for that. Councillor Lumley, seconded. Further discussion. These recommendations do include comment on form and character. Does council have any comment, preliminary comment on form and character they'd like to offer, or is it just we like the project? Councillor Diendrad?
Thank you, Mayor. I think my comment with regards to form and character is regarding the landscaping in this regard. You know, how I just want to ensure that the trees are put in a way that really would cool in the future when, you know, in 10, 15 years with climate change, it might be unbearable, you know, maybe 5 degrees higher. We have the trees protecting each unit that would cool down 5 degrees lower. So at least we're going to be on the same situation as today. So I would like to see this, and I would like to see even the town of Gibson move in this direction, really considering that. The second thing is with regard to traffic study, we already got 2 complaints of people in the neighborhood. So I'm not sure that moving to the public hearing, and you yourself, Mayor, have concerns. So we talk about 3 people that took the time to look at the situation. So I don't know how, if this is going to speed up. I don't feel comfortable without the understanding how traffic will flow. And so somehow I would prefer to have the study first without moving, because we do this where people get very concerned, right? The neighborhood, people are already writing down and they know it's coming to a public hearing. They get really nervous. So I would prefer to have the traffic study first before proceed. And perhaps it would coincide with the aquifer data, and we will be thumbs up. That's my preference.
Councillor Ludwig?
Just to throw a wrench into the conversation, kind of on the fence. Is it possible, could we get the rationale from MOT as to why access onto Reed isn't possible? Like, I'd like to know what the rationale is, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm wondering if we can defer this decision until we know how long it would take to get a traffic study and whether or not we can get a response from MOT. Like, if we're talking, it's going to take 6 months, put this development on hold for just to find out when a traffic study can be done. You know, it influences my decision making. So personally, I would like to defer until we know how long the traffic study would take and what MOTI's rationale is for not having access onto Reed Road.
You're moving to defer. Is there a second to defer? Do you have a second to defer?
There's a motion on the table, though.
Yeah, but you can defer. Move to defer is appropriate at any time.
Can I speak to the motion?
You can speak to the motion. I'm going to second the motion to defer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this might seem obvious. I mean, as far as the form and character goes, I guess we're not going to talk about that anymore. I mean, it's definitely not my style, but if it meets the criteria for the upper neighborhood and matches other things, that's great. It's pretty obvious. Do you really need a traffic study for like a 4-block area of cars? Like, it's obvious how the cars are going to work. Everybody in the lots on Woodsworth right off of Payne, it's going to suck for them. That's the truth and simple. The people out in the back, I'm looking at, what am I looking at? Figure 1, final parkland subdivision. Clearly the traffic is just going to flow around in there and people are going to go to their homes. But they do have to exit one area, which is why for all those people living on that one street, Woodsworth Road, yeah, it's going to be crappy for them. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how much work has to be done. We're not picking a date for a public hearing, but yeah, I'd be interested. I mean, if you've got a fire access lane, I share Councillor Ladwig's thoughts. Like, why not bring it back to the table? Like, I mean, they said no before, but you might just go, well, yeah, why? Like, why no? It's a road. It's another access, you know? And Councillor Cole's point, no one's going to be cutting through there because probably Dave's going to design a road that looks like a snake, right? So people aren't going to be ripping around in there. So I don't know. I mean, I'd like to move it, which I seconded it, I think, but I'd like to move it, but I'd like us to revisit, like, forget the traffic study, or unless maybe we have to do one for Modi, but I would say, like, it's a waste of time. I can look at the diagram and go, yeah, I know exactly how the traffic's going to flow. But with another access point to Reed Road, it might alleviate all that pressure, right? So I'd say revisit that. So anyway, I don't know if you can put that in, but anyway, I
could put that in.
Bring things, but
yeah.
Anyway.
This does set a public hearing date of September 21st in the resolution. So it does set that. So, and that's why the deferral would be to set that and then come back to this. So my corporate officer helped me out on a motion to defer. It's usually not debatable.
You can, you refer, instead of defer, you would refer to a specific date or to a specific time.
So I would be happy to refer, well, for the motion, I won't speak for the motion to Council Ladwig, but I would certainly support a referral to September 21st to see if we can investigate with Modi and investigate also the timing of a traffic study. Then we'll have more information at that time in which to make pull through this resolution. You agree with that, Council Ladwig? So refer to the September 21st meeting requesting more information on access to Reed Road and a traffic study in terms of the time frame for a traffic study to be done for this. Because when the original traffic study was done, I don't believe that it would have considered this additional volume of homes or density and vehicles, so that that's why I think it's appropriate to look at that at this time. So, Nicole, you. Sorry, did you have your hand?
Yeah. Sorry. I just want to say that absolutely. I mean, we were pressured by council originally to always rezone to smaller lots to allow more people to live in the town.
Yeah.
For the benefit of the town. It could have easily been done like, this is why we didn't rezone this phase 4 to go through this process, because we need to get moving in action. But at the same time, we want to provide more affordable housing and rental housing. The subdivision as a whole is like, it's accepted, planned, and the lots are done. I don't know about the fire lane. You'd have to go into the easement and the rules of how wide a road has to be and everything. So I don't know if that's a possibility, but at the same time, we could always just pull it and just build 4 giant homes. I mean, nobody has any place to live here. We can't hire teachers. We can't hire nurses. There's no one to work in our stores because there's nowhere for people to live. So I don't know why we wouldn't just like go with it. I own rentals in phase 2 where 2 of the 3 people don't even have cars. They just walk because it's a walkable, accessible community. Yeah. So I don't know. I understand. Trust me, we tried. Modi said it was too dangerous to have any more accesses. They do not allow any more accesses to major subdivisions than are what already there. And you know how it is dealing with Modi. Like, it's just kind of like they say and they go. We tried. So I guess we're now being punished because the people who bought the land beside us are just sitting on it and not doing anything. And now we're being punished by waiting and stalling and delaying. That's all I want to say. And we have been at this for 20 years.
It's not intended as a punishment.
I know, but that's what it's kind of like, oh my gosh, we're just trying to get this done.
Appreciate that. I think that if we can push this over to the 21st, I would second Councillor Ladwig's motion. And Councillor Lumley, where are you?
Yeah, I when we vote, I'll vote, but
yeah.
I just question, and I know you've obviously, I'm not going to say like you've dealt with Modi, but I'm just wondering, why are they involved? It's like, it's Gibsons. It's a town of Gibsons.
No, Modi owns half that. Half of Reed Road is split down the middle. Half is Gibsons, half is Modi.
But isn't this our half?
I know, you'd think, but they have to approve. I know.
No,
okay.
If we get an answer like that, I mean, I don't know.
Which makes it even more difficult to deal with Reed Road in general because it's split right down the middle, which, yes, sounds insane, but it is.
Even if they did what they did at the top end of Sunnycrest and have a right turn only out of the subdivision, not an entrance, but an exit. That's what they did on Sunnycrest, and it's right turn only from Sunnycrest onto Reed Road.
And Aurora.
And so yeah, so it's actually Sunnycrest at that point. Yeah. So, okay, Councillor Kroll, then I'm going to call the question on Councillor Ladwig's motion.
I know the Trower Lane in that area, where the Click Homes are, they have it's supposedly access only out of the complex onto Reed Road, and it's turned into horrendous problems. People turn left off of Reed Road into a one-way street the wrong way. So I can see why Modi have dug their heels in with respect to things. But with respect to the whole parkland process, you know, there's been a long history of this developer working in the community, and they've had some pretty horrendous challenges thrown at them over the years that they've complied with, whether it's you know, rate on the heating, in-ground heating systems that have been problematic over the years. You know, and I think the fact that they're recognizing the need for housing in the community, and particularly rental housing, as Councillor Lumley said, you know, it's the traffic study, you know, it is fairly, you know, clear how things work in there. And I can see from the people from where this intersects with Wordsworth, out to Payne Road, obviously they're not going to be happy about increased volumes. But you yourself lived in the community, Mayor Beamish, and you even walked your recycling over to the depot. So, you know, because of the nature of the complex and the community, and that it is level, and there's a good trail system. You know, I'm still in favor of you know, moving the project as it was originally presented.
Okay, I'm going to call the question on Councillor Ladwig's motion to refer to September 21st for more information, both from Modi and perhaps the timing of a traffic study. And if we could have that come back, that would certainly might help make a decision as opposed to go directly to public hearing. So call the question on that. All in favor of referring to the 21st? Okay. Opposed? Okay, Councillor Crowell opposed. Thank you. So that's Nicole is not saying no, is saying that we want more information on the traffic aspect of the project. And I did live in there for a number of years. I loved it in there. And if the opportunity presents, who knows? But at this point in time, I'd just like to assure that it's not a question. We're not talking volume traffic. We're talking how do you get out in a hurry traffic. And that's really what we're talking about. And that's really the issue. Volume traffic is there, and but it's just not everybody leaves at the same time. But if there was a fire, if there was an emergency, if there was a need to get out in a hurry, that's the question. Nicole, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to refer back to the snake roads that Stafford mentioned, because that's what a lot of the roads in part, every road built in phase 3 and now phase 4 is windy snake road for traffic calming purposes. So there's also 2 accesses onto the main that you can go out. So you're not having everybody funnel through the tennis courts. Half can funnel through right at the entrance. Also, that road, the original road in Woodsworth was built for, you know, a large traffic. It's a super wide road built for wide traffic. So yeah. And I know I'm used to this process and being told no many times and just going back at it. So don't worry. It's okay. I know how it has to go.
We'll see you on the 21st. Thank you.
On the 21st. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, Council, we're moving on to the next item on the agenda. And that is, I have my agenda here. That is the Crescent again, form and character on development variance application for a new mixed-use residential building at 682 Gibsons Way. Boy, development's just pushing ahead here. Okay, Kirsten, back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so the final development application on the agenda is a form and character development permit and a setback variance for a mixed-use building at 682 Gibsons Way. There we go. And the purpose of the report for this meeting are to obtain the committee's recommendations to council on the form and character of the proposed development in relation to development permit area number 3, which is the Upper Gibsons commercial development area, and the requested variance to reduce the exterior side yard setback, which is effectively the front on Gibsons Way. The property is located at the intersection of Gibsons Way and Crucial Road, and it's currently home to a large 2-story commercial building with residential apartments on the 2nd floor. The apartments are served by parking at the north of the lot off Crucial Road, while the large parking lot fronting Gibsons Way serves the 5 businesses at the ground floor. So this is a Google view, which is slightly out of date, showing the site and existing buildings as seen from Gibsons Way. The current commercial tenants of the site include the Friendly Thai Restaurant, Panago Pizza, Laundromat, Hair Salon, and the Salvation Army. The development application is for the addition of a new 3-story building to be located within the current paved parking area that's fronting Gibsons Way at the southeast corner of the lot. And the lower story is proposed to have a single 160 square meter commercial unit fronting Gibsons Way with ground level parking and behind, and 10 residential apartments located above on the second and third floors. It's the intention of the developer at this point that the apartments would be rental apartments. As you can see in the ground floor site plan and view of the rear of the building, 6 parking spaces are located beneath the building and accessed from the center of the site. A loading bay is proposed to be accessed via a loading entrance. Oh, apologies, we have an update. So the loading bay is actually as shown in the right. That is a revision based on ADP comments. So there's a loading bay at the top of the property next to the existing building, and the loading bay that is shown next to the new building would be replaced with landscaping. The top left image here shows a view from Gibson's Way, omitting the existing swale in the frontage, which, yeah, on Gibson's Way, we have a ditch there that is fortified with boulders. Access to the building would be via a sidewalk connection that goes around the swale and connects in front of the building. So there is an access fronting Gibson's Way, but not directly accessed across the ditch. We won't be filling in the ditch as proposed. The lower image shows, or sorry, they're not proposing filling in the ditch. I should be clear about that. The lower image shows the rear of the building facing the parking area and the existing building and facing the existing building on the site, with access to the ground floor parking around the building. There is a proposed sidewalk that is in the landscape plan, but not shown in the rendering. Landscape improvements as attached to the report are focused on improvements to Gibson's Way and the Crucial Road frontages, and better buffering and screening of the existing parking areas. As you might be familiar, right now a lot of the frontage is not well defined and includes just a gravel expanse where people park as they wish. So this would look to define the corner better and improve that situation. The zoning for the property is C6, which is special commercial. It's very similar to the C1 zone, which is used widely in Upper Gibson's commercial area. And its permitted uses include commercial uses and residential apartments located above the ground floor. The maximum permitted height for the zone is 10.5 meters though, which is somewhat lower than for this zone, sorry, which is somewhat lower than the 12 meters permitted in the C1 zone. The setback affecting the proposed building location includes a requirement for a 3-meter setback from the property line on Gibson's Way and a 6-meter setback from the east side lot line. Staff's review of the proposal found that the front lot line on Gibson's Way encroaches within the required 3-meter setback, and for this reason, a variance is requested to allow the design features of the building to project close to the front lot line. As shown by the purple dashed line, the property frontage is set back by about 5 meters from the typical lot frontages on Gibson's Way. Therefore, the effective setback of the building from the street edge would still be set back 2 additional meters in relation to neighboring developments with the 0 lot line setback. So referrals were sent to the advisory, well, we've referred to the advisory design panel for comment. We've also sent referrals to the Squamish Nation, the Gibsons and District Volunteer Fire Department, the Infrastructure Services Department, and the Building Department. And those comments are provided in the plan. There were no concerns. Apologies, I didn't copy those here. The advisory design panel, sorry, correcting myself once more, the fire department did point out that there's a need for a 6-meter clear access on the driveway that goes between the buildings. That was provided at ground level in the plan, but there are some projections on the building at the 1st story level that will need to be adjusted minorly and brought in to ensure that the fire truck can fit through properly. So the advisory design panel reviewed the application at its meeting on August 25th. The panel was in general support of the proposal and the requested variance, and so provided recommendations that the development permit and the variance be issued, but subject to minor changes. And the changes they requested are that a lighting plan be provided that uses full cutoff low glare fixtures. This wasn't specified in the plan, and this was a recommendation of staff as well. Also, that the location of the loading bay be used as revised at the rear of the parking area and access through the existing driveway on Gibson's Way rather than adding a new access off Gibson's Way. That the number of conifers proposed on the east side of the property be reduced to allow for growth as recommended by infrastructure services staff. These were actually added to the proposal to compensate for trees, but there was an overcompensation, and infrastructure services recommended allowing more space on the east side. And finally, that the larger blank wall facing the parking area at ground level be improved with a design feature such as a green wall or other feature. So staff recommendations are on page 1 of the report and reflect the recommendations of both staff and incorporate the ADP comments. These include issuance of the form and character development permit on the condition of the design changes discussed, and that notifications be sent to neighbors within 50 meters of the property for the opportunity to comment before a decision on the development variance permit is made. Finally, we ask that the recommendations of the committee be forwarded directly to council at tonight's council meeting. Thank you. And we have the applicant, if he's been able to stick around, we're expecting the applicant and project architect Farzin Yadagari to be here as a panelist to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kirsten. Council, I'm going to be breaking away to join a SCRD call on the for UBCM. Before I go, I just want to comment on 3 comments that I have on this project. One is that if this project was across the street, view protection would certainly be an issue because in Martin Road, that area there and further is the view protection. I am concerned about the impact of the view on people from the townhouses on the corner Crucial Road to see what that would impact their views. And secondly, I would like to see upgrades to the existing buildings done at the same time. They're looking a little tired. And I think that if you're going to invest in the property, I think that would be an important investment to upgrade the whole of the property. And I'm concerned that I'd like to have some assurance, and I don't know that you can give it at this time, that it would not affect the plans for the shelter in that location, because that's where the Salvation Army runs the shelter, and it's very important amenity to our community. In fact, we are going to be investing in that shelter, so that it's one of those things I wouldn't want to see suddenly that, hey, we've got this thing looking so nice, we don't want to have a shelter. Those would be my concerns with the project. But I'm sure that when you do the referral, the Crucial Road residents may comment on the height of the project. Be interested to see how that would actually affect them, being that it is a little lower than where they are, but it is going to be, it's 1 story above what they're currently looking at, and that would possibly rob the views of those existing townhouses there. So I apologize for leaving and just leaving with my thoughts. I've asked Councilor D'Andrade to take over as chair as she's deputy mayor. And if you could carry on, I will go and join the SCRD. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So any councilor would like to provide some feedback? Councilor Crowe, please.
Thank you, Councillor D'Andrade. A couple of the concerns the mayor brought up, I brought up at the planning meeting. My concern was that the height of the building might even cause some shading on the existing building. The architect assured me that that wasn't the case, but the view concerns are still there. And something that you brought up earlier, air circulation. Suddenly there's this huge 3-story wall, the length of a property line, blocking, just the general flow, whether it's traffic flow, people flow, whatever. I also addressed concerns that 2 of the tenants in the existing building received deliveries from tractor and trailer vehicles. And the concern I've had of them getting in and out, and also the issue of fire access. There was already a fire in the area, and I know it was challenging for the fire department to deal with it. So the concerns that Mayor Beamish addressed. Also, with respect to the residential, again, I applaud residential, but were this project to proceed, I'd like to see a covenant put on the fact that they are resident and that it be for at least 60 years.
Thank you, Councilor Crowe. Councilor Ladwig, please.
Yeah, I was just wondering if someone could explain the vision for the lower commercial space on the Gibsons Way side. Is the vision that people would enter those units down there on Gibson's Way side? Like, is there another sidewalk inside our sidewalk, or what? It's a bit confusing to me.
May I answer? As I don't see Farzin here, unfortunately, he did a good job of answering ADP's questions, but my understanding is there is an entrance out of, I should could share the plans, I suppose. There is an entrance at ground level. You know what, I will share the plans if that's okay. All right. Oh, it always goes back to the first page though when I attempt it.
Corporate office.
Kirsten, did you say Farzin?
Yes, do you have him?
He's here.
Thank you. Please let him in. Yeah. Oh, are you here? Right? Are you here, Farzin? Oh, okay.
He's here.
Right. Yeah, it's my understanding that there's entrances at both ends of the building, as well as a front entrance to the commercial area at the front and one off the parking, but I'll let Farzin confirm. Thank you for joining us, Farzin.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, that's correct. There is an access in front, and there is another pedestrian way in front of the commercial, just to have the continuity of what we have commercial along the Gibson's Way continue. Actually, this is this commercial along Gibson's Way by itself being only 150 square meters is not very large, but it makes the continuity and the public access along Gibson's Way continuous, which I think it will improve the cityscape and connection between the pedestrian way. Yes, there is one right in front of the commercial space. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And is that one commercial space, or is there multiple units in there?
Well, it's not, well, it can be divided to two, what the market requires, but it's only 150 square meters. It can be divided because it has along the street, all the doors that it's can be all accessed directly. But most probably, the way I understand from the owner, one client already wants the whole space as a one tenant.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? So I'll make my comment. Yeah, I share many of the concerns. Beautiful project, by the way. I love the aesthetics. I think my first concern is with both concerns with the circulation and the massing of the building right at the, especially with the request of not having the 3-meter setbacks. I know it aligns with the other building in the property, but the other building is smaller, right? It doesn't have this, the same height. So to me, it's difficult without the understanding. Well, I have already objection with the 3 not having the setback. We had a project a while ago that council said no because the massing was huge. It was right there. A question to staff is the building that will be mentioned on the townhouses on Crescent, do they have view protection? Is it on the view protection zone? Sorry.
Yeah, the view protection area doesn't extend that high, and the townhouses would be raised. They're uphill of the project. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I did want to point out. I pulled up on Google street view in hopes of sharing a view. And I can share that right now if you would like a reference.
Yeah, it's very important.
Unfortunately, the view shows actually prior to the development of the townhouses. So this is the existing building. I don't know if I can back up here, but this is actually the site of the townhouses, which were built in front of some lower developments. So there's certainly a bit of a transition happening in that view. But the site is downhill of both of those, the existing building and the above properties.
Thank you. Please, Councilor Ledwig.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Farzan, if I can, what is the owner's plans for the rest of the buildings on that site? Is there going to be a beautification or anything with the other building?
The existing building interior has already has upgraded and renovated. And when I discussed it after the ADP meeting with the owner, he is intent to upgrade the outside of the building as well. So it's the whole thing basically is going to be renovated. The inside is already done. Outside will be done. It's in progress. We'll do that after this project.
To be cohesive and in line with the building, the new building, so they'll match.
Absolutely.
It's really too bad the one behind wasn't the 3-story and the one out front was a 2-story. Like that's what it would just look so much more balanced.
Initially, they wanted to make the other building 3-story too, but I didn't like that because of many complications, and we kept it as is, and instead we built this one because the OCP allows for 10 feet high, 6 meter high, and we limited to that level.
Right. Thank you.
Please, Councilor Lumley.
I would like to see, like the mayor said already, that was one of my thoughts. I'd like to see an upgrade package for the lot, the existing building, and I'm pretty shaky on the setback at the front, only because it's 3 stories. I probably wouldn't have a big problem with it, but I mean, I don't know. It just might just seem like a giant wall right on the sidewalk. So I don't know if anything can be done there as far as design or whatever, but there's the setback at the front, which is, it just, I don't know. I'm a little concerned with that.
Please, Councilor Ledwig.
Sorry, I don't mean to be taking so much airtime. I understand and appreciate Councillor Lumley's concern about the wall. I think we're all kind of feeling it. But I will just note for Council's reference, the Blue Heron along Gibson's Way is 3 stories and it feels really nice in my opinion, you know, right there along Gibson's Way. But they do have a really nice landscape plan that just buffers the sidewalk and the building. And I don't know if that makes it feel a bit more comfortable. And I'm wondering if, you know what I mean with Blue Heron, right? Like where BMO Bank is, Bliss Coffee Shop, that's 3 stories and it's right up against the sidewalk, but it feels good to me anyways when you're walking by. And I wonder if maybe that some of that landscaping helps soften that wall experience. That's all I'm saying.
There's Councillor Crowe.
Just to Councillor Ladwig's comment, Mr. Longman's building where the Bliss and the bank are, they're below grade. The sidewalk is actually higher than the building by half a story. So it's not a 3-story building adjacent to the sidewalk. What would be closer would be the, the Soames, where the high school, across from the high school, but it has like a 6-meter setback with, landscaping sidewalk, more landscaping sidewalk. When I first saw this, I was really concerned about the wall and the proximity to the road and the impact it was going to have on the existing building and the tenants within that building. I know I'd be thrilled to have a 2nd-story balcony suite that I could sit out and have my morning coffee and look at the sun rising over Keats, and suddenly now I'm faced with looking at a wall of windows. So, I think it could seriously impact on the occupancy of the existing building as well.
Please, Mr. Farzin.
Yes, just wanted to mention, being the shape of a triangle and the way that the access of the parking and the existing building is already exists. If I set back more, it's only 5 units per floor. You have only 10 rental units altogether. It's such a small building. So it may look big, but it's only 10 rental units and 150 square meter of commercial. That commercial is only for continuity of the commercial space along Gibson's Way, which is, I think, from planning point of view, is very important to have the continuity of the public. It doesn't have that much of a commercial value, if I may say. And if I reduce it further than that, the whole project is not feasible. We are not going to put 10 townhouses unit with 100, even that 150 square meter of commercial needs to be erased. So there won't be any building left to be built. So it's either 10 units of rental units, 10 small units, and 150 square meter of commercial, or it won't be feasible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farzin, yet again. Any other comment, Council? Yes, so I particularly am very hesitant with the change in the setbacks because of the height of the building. So I'm not to support, even though it is I understand the housing, but the housing needs as well, but without a bigger plan. If we have done a big consultation in a community and have decided that we will change the nature of this area, I would feel more comfortable. But just coming up with, approving a variance and causing view issues that we don't even understand because there's no really a good perspective on this. I would be, and people move to this community a lot because of the views. So I frankly, I'm not too comfortable with the setbacks. Councilor Ladwig, please.
Would it be possible to request more of a 3D rendering? When we get those types of diagrams, it gives us that full perspective of how the landscape will be changed. And maybe that's a question for Kirsten for planning.
Sorry.
Well, I'm just wondering if we could get like a rendering where it shows us like the view from, like, imagining that the building was there and kind of how it fits into what it would feel like to be there. Do you know?
I understand what you're asking because it takes me back to the ADP years ago. I still, even as a planner, have never seen this 3D rendering that apparently was somewhere. So that would be a tall order for Farzin, I think.
They did it for the George.
Did they?
Yeah.
Sorry, should I defer to Farzin? I see your hand up, Farzin.
If you like, the whole project is a 3D model. Of course, when I have a 3D model, it's not rendered, but I can go around and show you exactly the height and everything in relationship and any angle that you like, if that helps. I can do that. It just takes a minute, less than a minute.
Please.
While Farzin pulls that up, may I share? I was just looking in our mapping for a setback on the townhouse complex at 724 Gibson's Way, which is just further up from the ones on Crusoe. Those units are 3 stories and they have a setback
7 meters
from the street or from the property line. You say 7
I
minutes?
believe it's from the property line, if I can recall. That's it's an old memory from a project that we had in the past. And that was exactly the issue. That they had good setbacks. That's what I recall, but. And that makes a big difference because you don't have, and another thing, we are promoting, walkability. That I think that's another issue. And suddenly you have a building in like, the massing really big.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my concern. I think Mr. Yadegari, do you have the 3D to show?
Yes, I have the model.
Okay.
I'll show you in a minute.
Okay, thank you. Please, Councilor Ledwig.
While Mr. Yadagari is looking for his model, I just want to, we're running out of time, and I'm wondering if we can refer our next item to a later meeting, because I don't, okay.
I'm already considering this.
Please. Can you see it?
Yes, it's a black and white, yeah. Oh my God.
This is relative to the buildings around. And I need to mention that the height difference between the north and the south is 3.7 meters, which is more than a floor. We are not 3 meters high. So from this point to this point, we have 3.7 meter drop. It's about 6% slope along here. So this from here looks like a 2-story building. I can show you, excuse me. Okay. I don't know which view you like to have. This is what you see. Maybe I can show you some rendering. I don't know if it helps, but that shows the total height relative to the building. This is not really, the existing building hasn't been turned into 3D model because it's existing, but this is it. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Where is it? No, that bringing the 3D model of the existing building takes some time. So if you don't mind, you just any angle that you prefer to see, let me know and I will show it. Sorry, I don't know if it is any help.
Yeah,
Miss
Deputy Mayor, I want to be close to the time.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway.
If you can go back to council's view, please, Mr. I think we are having difficult to see the full concept anyways, because you're showing this building, but it's not easy to see in relationship to
Other buildings.
yeah, the massing is quite prominent. Yeah, I appreciate your drawings, your 3D. Could you close your, oh, thank you very much. Just because we are running out of time, we have another meeting. So how council would like to proceed? I particularly feel, I don't feel comfortable with the setbacks. I mean, we can just to go and hear from the people. I'm not sure. I think it's a big massing. Please, planner.
Yeah, I'm very sorry to interrupt. If it's helpful, I can share the aerial photo view with the setback in relation of the buildings in relation to neighboring buildings. Is that helpful?
Well, it is helpful. It is helpful if it's
it can be quick.
Yes, quick, please.
I think. So this is the air photo view with the existing buildings shown outlined in the yellow. This is the front lot line that's set back on the subject lot, and it is a almost 10 meter setback from the side of Gibson, the edge of Gibson's Way. And the development I was referring to that's a 3 meter height, the townhouse development has a very similar setback. So if that's a helpful reference, I wanted to.
So it's not on Crucio, it's okay.
Yeah, it is actually, I think it's this project here.
Yeah.
So I'll stop sharing unless you'd like to keep it.
Okay, well, that helps. I wasn't aware of that. Please, Councilor Ledwig.
Sorry, Kirsten, could you put that image back up again? Not of the other development, but its overlay on the street, the first one you showed us. I just want to make sure I understand the variance that we're asking for, or that he's asking for, and where it sits in relation to the other property lines.
Sorry, I just have to toggle that. Mm-hmm.
So just so I'm clear, he's asking to build the building right up to the property line. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so this, sorry.
The closest point of the building would be actually the building itself, the front face would be closer to 2 meters back from the property line, but there are roof overhangs and supports. The projections on the building that stick out do reach close to 0 in points. So we would have to be very fine grained in the description if we didn't do just a 0 meter lot line. The building is also slightly angled so that it would be a bit further on the downhill side from the front lot line, and nearly the projections from on the face of the building would nearly touch the lot line on the top side. So the walkway comes off Gibson's Way, stays within the right of way until it comes around one of the building projections on the front, and then actually comes in onto the lot further to the east, and then follows the building in front of the building within the lot line.
Right. So the development of this building is in parallel with the existing building as far as its structure. Like that building is right on the property line as well. Correct?
Correct. I'd say less of the building is at the property line, but yes.
Yeah. It's funny, I thought I was going to be more concerned about the variance as well, but I'm actually not, just because of the way the easement, or what is it, what is that piece of land there, that the green right away, just because there is so much space there. And I do think that this building will sort of beautify that building, that whole block. So in some ways I'm very excited about it, and I think that it provides a lot of value in many ways. So I am quite torn on this, but like everyone has said, the massing is significant, and that does concern me. I wonder if we should move this, and maybe could we approve it for first and second reading and see kind of what the community, like kind of ease into this and see how the community's comments are? Is that a possibility? Instead of taking it right to adoption, could we?
Please, Director of Planning.
Sorry, this is not a rezoning application. This is just a DP for form and character and a variance. So the variance process would be to notify neighbors and then receive submissions, and then they come back to council for a decision.
Right.
And the form and character is based on guidelines. So there's no provision to ask for like an upgrade package of a different building under a form and character DP for another building. Okay. So they are really, it's based on the criteria. But the variance council could deny it up front if you don't like it, or you could at this point just go to notify neighbors and then solicit feedback and then come back to another meeting for a decision.
And please, Councilor Ludwig, do you want to finish?
I was going to say I'll move it.
Okay.
I'm curious to see
Okay.
what the community has to say.
Okay, Councilor, we have a second. I would like just to bring a point. So because, and that was one of the concerns that Councilor Crowe brought it was the circulation. So right now, let's say the setback doesn't look any big wall, perhaps. I would prefer a 3D that is, even though this 3D, but this 3D is not the real 3D that I'm used to, that you can really see the building, the mass, and in relationship. It's just more lines. It's a little bit challenging to see. But I think how can we address the concern of circulation? Because it is a big block. So let's see that it doesn't impact the views too much, but it might impact some air circulation, right? Suddenly you have, a big mass in front of, a block. And if the building, it was townhouses that you have space. And if you notice, with the exception of this building, which is the building behind in this parking lot, which is really low, I believe most of developments are not in this side of the road, are like they are like houses with space between. Am I correct? Please.
Sorry, this isn't a response. Well, it's a response to your question, but not an answer. I just wanted to remind that we can consider the setback. I don't know if your circulation consideration relates to the setback request, but otherwise, if it's form and character, there's no guidelines around air circulation. So we'd have to be careful to make sure we're addressing the guidelines in the OCP for the form and character.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, so we have a second. I would call for a vote, and did everybody agree in moving that in voting? Okay, so I'll support that to see to get the feedback from the people. So it's carried. Thank you very much. Oh, it is challenging, right? Because of the setbacks, and we don't really have a clear. It's hard to see. I'm still, not 100%. So, but thank you, Mr. Yadegari. I appreciate
very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I would like just to, if there is a possibility that you come up with some 3D, not just lines, but we can really see, I think it would help, because we don't know what will be the concern of people. And I'll still try to study to go to the site and see, because I'm still concerned with the.
I can send you an animation going around the building 360 degree from different levels. So with the color, so that can satisfy what you require. I think that would be very, very clear.
Okay, I appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you very much. So I think we have the item 3.4. We have to make a decision. I don't think we have time to discuss this. And but I would like to include this, if possible, to move this to the next committee of the whole. Corporate officer, please.
Yes, you can make a motion to postpone this to September 21st committee of the whole.
Thank you very much. So I'll make a motion to postpone item 3.4 to September 1st. So I have Councilor Crowe to second. Okay, let's vote. I agree. Councilor Crowe. Okay, thank you very much. So I think we have inquiries now. I believe we have only one person in the, we can do a quick inquiry.
If anyone has a question, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised, Deputy Mayor D'Andrade.
Thank you very much. So our next meeting is on September 21st, 2021, and I would like to adjourn this meeting. And I'll see you in 1 hour and 35 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everyone.